Is the God of the Old Testament different from the God of the New Testament? Which I think is pretty common. That's actually what I thought before I became an actual believer. When I read the Old Testament, I was like, man, God sure is angry and wrathful and has judgment and is killing people and, wiping people out with a flood and has wrath and fury and all this stuff. And I read the Old Testament, Jesus is like hanging out with children and, blessing people and healing people. I'm like, man, God's so different.
Yeah.
But the reality is, Jesus and God Himself never changes. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the same God of the Old Testament is the God of the New Testament. Because when you read the Bible, sometimes in the Old Testament, you emphasize maybe those parts about God, about His judgment and His wrath and His fury and these things. But we also see so much of the kindness of God. We also see so much of the patience of God, the mercy of God, the grace of God. God should have wiped out the Israelites for a long time. They were grumbling in the desert for hundreds of years. They were raising up idols and doing all this stuff. But God is long suffering. God is patient towards them. God cares about them. God looks after them. God delivers them time and time again from idolatry and from slavery and doing all these things. And in the New Testament, it's no different. God has so much grace and so much love and so much forgiveness for us. But at the same time, in the New Testament, we see that Jesus is one day coming to judge the living and the dead.
Yeah.
He first came as a lamb, but now he's coming back as a lion.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize that. There is no difference between the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament. It's the exact same God. Sometimes I think people just like to nitpick passages of the scripture in the Old Testament and say, oh, see, God's like this. And then they miss out on all the other passages of scripture where we see so much of God's mercy, grace, kindness, forgiveness, and also vice versa in the New Testament as well.